If you are not giving your body what it needs, you might as well have not done the session.
Today could be the most informative episode for me personally.
Are you helping or hindering yourself? And in which way are you doing that?
How should we know if we're doing it right?
There is no such thing as a good or bad food.
This is a loaded question. Today we're joined by Sian, aka the Fueled Runner, a qualified exercise and sports nutritionist, as well as a very keen marathon runner. We talk through everything that you need to know when it comes to your nutrition to both fuel to be a healthy, happy runner and also optimize for your performance. Anya and I asked everything that we want to know. We dispelled all the myths out there so that you can get away and focus on your running and make sure that you're doing everything that you can to fuel and perform at your best. Enjoy the episode.
Hey Sian, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Thank you so much for coming on to share all of your wisdom on nutrition and how to optimise our performance. I guess we'll start at the beginning though, because I understand that what got you into nutrition was actually your journey into running. So please could you take us back to day one and what got you into running in the first place?
I've always been like the sporty kid. Always done every club under the sun, always been running around and kind of doing everything. And as a product of that, I ended up being like, all right at running, you know, I did all the cross countries, all that kind of stuff. But then as I kind of like went through school, I was just so excited for all sport. But it did have a soft spot for the fact that like I'd really like to be Paula Radcliffe when I was older, or I'd really love to do the London Marathon. But I also wanted to play netball for England and do everything else. So like was never like just running. And then as I got older, I went to uni, played loads of netball, but I was still kind of trying to keep up running. Did my first ever half marathon at uni, didn't train. I think I took my first gel in the middle of that race and was like, I'm never going to run again. I'm never going to do a marathon, give up on that dream. This is horrible. But then when I started work and kind of going through things like that, I was actually just then leaning on running, not playing other sports so much. So more and more just getting into running and kind of using the other things I was doing, like my degree, my background, and going, actually, I wonder whether something that will make a difference is my nutrition. Because when I'd been younger, I'd run for a club and a coach had said to me, if you eat a bagel every night before you go to bed, you'll run faster. And I so vividly remember like 11-year-old me being like, Mum, we need to buy bagels. Like this is the answer. So yeah, I think I definitely always had that kind of seed in my brain that it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And then as I kind of got more and more into running, did my first marathon, did my first ultra, that's when I was like, oh, hang on a minute. Like this seriously needs looking at. So yeah, it's kind of all grown from there.
And the question is having a bagel before bed productive for all runners?
I mean, I love a bagel before bed. I love a bagel every time of day. It's utilising carbohydrate in a way that is going to enhance your performance and also fuel your body, fuel your life, that is going to make you the best runner you can be.
But I guess in the early days, like you weren't really aware of that. I think as a kid, you just run around, you've always got so much energy. And then I definitely didn't realise that until I don't know, is there an age thing in that?
I definitely think there is, because I remember kind of like a conscious shift of me associating food with how good I was at netball and how good I was at running. Yeah. I grew up with my mum being a dietitian, so she was very like, she knew what she was doing and she was like constantly trying to feed me and my siblings more because she knew what we were doing, but I didn't necessarily understand myself. And I mean, I used to like have 3 Mars bars after school before then going to training. But then as I got older, going to uni, it was then understanding actually there's probably a better way to do this. And my background was in human biosciences, so that's what I did at uni. So a kind of mixture of bioscience and sports science and kind of medical stuff. So actually then more and more my kind of academic side and my sporting side were coming together. And I was going, this makes sense. Yeah. Like, let's see what goes on here.
I love that your mum would give you 3 Mars bars. And because when I think about a nutritionist, like, I think of almond mum, which obviously doesn't seem to be the case. And I grew up with my mum being like really heavily into diet culture. And I remember opening the fridge and she had this like voice that would go, don't be naughty, or like literally like call you a pig, and like it was meant to be like comical, but she genuinely had it in the fridge. And I think that
wasn't you remembering her voice. That was like an automated noise in the fridge.
I swear it was something to do with her Weight Watchers or like her like Rosemary Conley like diet, and that's so ingrained from me from a kid.
Yeah, and it is, and it's so difficult because I sometimes work with young athletes kind of, and you can literally hear it come out of some kids' mouths, like the kind of voices and tropes they've been taught about food and their behaviours with food and relationships with it, you can hear it coming out of their mouths as them going, no, that's a bad food. And then I'm saying, well, I eat sweets when I run marathons. Like, how does that? No, you can't possibly do that. And it's actually learning and kind of education around food as well that's really important. Of there is no such thing as a good or bad food. It's just timing. And yeah, you don't want to eat like sweets all day, every day, but there's still a place in your diet for them.
Mm-hmm. So team sports like netball and things, was nutrition a big part there?
I think it definitely became more of a big part. So at uni, when we kind of travelling around, playing higher level sport, actually the bag of Haribos that we were kind of eating in between quarters and at half time, we were like, oh, it's just sugar, it's energy. But actually, once you understand that a bit more, you're like, oh, wow, that actually was a really good thing for us to be doing. And I used to have a thing where I'd only play well in my head. I'd only score my goals if I'd eaten tuna pasta before a game. I just had a real thing about it. But then actually now I'm like, oh, that was great. Go past me. Well done. Nice lot of carbs, bit of protein, gave myself lots of time to digest. Perfect.
So did you find any habits that you carried on from that tuna pasta story that transpired into your ultra marathon journey?
Yeah, so I actually did my first ultra with one of my best friends from my netball team. So we were training together, building up towards that, and that's the kind of first time I'd ever run with a running pack and run with water and like eaten sweets midway through a run. And it's kind of taking those things and going, oh, okay, this makes sense, this works. Let's keep doing things like that. And we were just experimenting because we honestly didn't know what we were doing. We had no idea. And this was kind of quite a long time before running was a big boom and everyone thought we were mental. So yeah, it was definitely learning actually what we had been doing, what had we been doing that was working and why was it working. So it's like, oh, I felt really good this run. Okay, so what did you eat for breakfast and what did you eat yesterday? And making those links between good run equals actually, it was good carbohydrate intake was what was the correlation there.
That's so interesting actually, because until I, got to the more pointy end of performance, I don't think I ever considered things like that. Like, my main focus was the run itself, like what happened before and what happened after. Like, I didn't really care. And yeah, maybe I fueled on the run, but I think it was very unlikely that I made that connection, which is interesting.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily something you'd think about unless you've had that idea put in your head. And it's not always something we're taught with running, and it's like, oh yeah, you're training for a marathon, okay, so here's your plan, so you follow the plan, but it's actually everything around that. And there are so many things we can control that will make us have the best run possible, because that's what it's about, right? Like, you want to feel the best and have the best, most fun run you can have. And by kind of altering your nutrition, you can really help yourself along that journey.
So when you went into that ultra, were you conscious of what you were taking on? Or was it a bit of fun? Or was it the classic thing when you're almost doing it for aesthetics? Like, if I was that uni age, I would only probably run aesthetics.
I think because we were doing it as like a challenge and we just wanted to do it as like, oh, we can do this really cool thing. We were both conscious of like, okay, we need to fuel because that's what we've been told. And I'd picked up somewhere that an ultra is a moving picnic. And I just thought, okay, so right, I just need to eat and drink loads and then I'll just get through it. So we were having all sorts, but looking back, I thought I was eating loads. I definitely was not. And I definitely wasn't the healthiest or happiest runner. I mean, I was covered in KT tape. I'd just done the London Marathon. I hadn't run at all between that and the ultra because I couldn't. And actually I wasn't doing the best I could have. But I was doing more than, I wouldn't have got through it if we weren't doing like the bare minimum that we were doing. So yeah, it was a lot of Haribos, baby food, like Saurine bars, and as many gels as we could. But I mean, the gels really stopped going down well.
I think that's like, I mean, it sounds like fundamentally that you came into it with a lot higher base of knowledge than the average runner, or particularly the average person kind of running for those longer distances where it being a moving picnic is very accurate to some extent. To what extent do you think, though, that it is really the case that there is no good food and that it is a case of just taking on as much as we can? Because I'm sure there are some foods that are easier to digest and are not, and some foods that we should be taking on a run and we shouldn't be. How do you think about that now? And like, how do you think differently to just saying, let's try and consume as much as we can on a run? Yeah,
I'm definitely much more conscious now of actually, yes, you need to consume a lot, but it's got to be the right thing. Otherwise, again, you're not helping yourself. So it's the kind of balance between, are you helping or hindering yourself, and in which way are you doing that? So keeping it low in fiber, keeping it as fast digesting carbohydrates, avoiding protein, avoiding high fat, doing all of these things that are actually giving your body the best chance to have the best run. So actually, yes, eat as much as you can during an ultra or when you're fueling around a session. I always say you sandwich it. So you sandwich your session with nutrition. So your before and after nutrition. And it's actually just making sure you're giving your body the opportunity to have what it needs. But when we're saying, oh, just eat as much as you possibly can when you're marathon training, that's also not the best approach. Because again, when we say eat whatever you want, are you eating what's going to help you tomorrow, help you recover, help you in a day down the line? Because there are those things that actually could be influencing your performance in a negative way.
So would you say that then there are like three kind of parts to it? There's your pre-run sandwich, there's the run itself, and then there's everything you do after the run.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of like in terms of sports nutrition timings, those are the 3 windows around a session where we really want to focus on what we're doing.
Okay. And so if we dive into them one by one, what should we and what shouldn't we be doing in the pre-run window? And when does the pre-run window start? Is it when we go to bed and have that bagel, or is it 15 minutes before?
Yeah, so if you're just looking at kind of your midweek interval session, so if we take that as an example, so you've got some intensity in there and you need to do that fueled. So fueling our body beforehand is going to give you the best to have the best session and get the most out of it. So kind of an hour before, ideally, you want to be having something which is high in carbohydrate. So whether that be a bagel or oats with banana and then some honey or jam. So there you've got a mixture of slightly slower digesting carbs, so kind of your oats and your bagel. And then you've got much faster digesting carbs, so you've got honey or jam. So you're kind of giving yourself a spectrum of carbohydrates, if you like. And then most people can digest that in kind of 60 to 90 minutes and then head out on their run. So that's the optimal of what you're looking to do to fuel your session.
On the run, what are we looking for?
Yeah, so on the run, you are absolutely avoiding fiber, you are absolutely avoiding fat, and you're avoiding protein. You just want carbohydrate, and you want really simple, quick digesting carbs. So gels, sweets, sugars, because a carbohydrate fundamentally is a sugar, and sugar's not bad. It's actually what your body needs when you're on a run. And if you're working at intensity, you are burning more carbohydrate. So that's actually what your body needs.
I guess the reason why, or you correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine the reason why sugar is deemed as bad is that for the average child who's meant to be kind of getting ready for bed, having a high energy kind of trip to the fuel tank is definitely not a productive thing. But there are moments when you're doing high intensity exercise when maximizing for fuel performance is exactly what you want.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's the right food at the right time. And it's not a bad food, it's situational. And it's going, actually, in that moment, when you're working at intensity and your body is utilizing carbohydrate in a different way, you have a different insulin response when you're running as to if you're sat. Like if I sat here right now and ate a gel, my body would deal with it differently than if I'm halfway through a half marathon and I'm having a gel. So it's actually like the energy metabolism of it is different, and it's exactly what you need at that time. Because if you gave yourself like protein, your body would be like, what are you doing this for? It's going to come straight back up.
And so with reference to how your body actually responds differently, I'm assuming that it's partly because right now sitting down, we don't really need any energy. So we'll probably store it for a rainy day. Is that like kind of what's happening there? And
it's also your body going, if I'm outputting all of this energy right now, so I'm flying down the road, I need to be putting energy out. And the best way, there's a kind of different mechanisms of blood glucose metabolism, of the way that your body stores glycogen in your muscles and your liver, how it then turns that into energy to help you move. And if we're taking on glucose and sugar during the run, your body goes, oh, sweet, I'm safe. Okay, fine. My blood glucose is stable. I don't need to pull any alerts. I'm okay. I can carry on. I'm not running out of tanks. Nothing bad's happening. Because that's what you get when people hit the wall in a marathon. A huge part of that is your brain just going, alert cord, this is horrendous, we need to stop right now because we're in danger. Whereas actually taking on that sugar, there's multiple pathways it's working in your body going, we're good, we can keep going, we can keep doing this. And it's actually, that's what's allowing your body to keep going.
And so those different energy pathways are kind of storage tanks of energy, of which the fastest way to get the energy is the sugar that we're consuming right now. And then the next is going to be through what's in our blood and then the fat that's in our body, etc.
Yeah, and it's also at different intensities. So right now, our bodies are using a very different energy pathway to if we were out on a run. And also if we were on an easy run versus a hard run. But it's not I'm either using electricity or I'm using petrol. It's not fat or carbohydrate. It's different proportions. So as your intensity increases, your body relies on your carbohydrate stores more. Whereas at lower intensity, you're looking more like kind of the fat metabolism pathways. So that's as we're running, the carbohydrate you're using goes up. So that's those carbohydrate tanks in your muscles and your liver. So if you're taking on carbohydrate during, your body's going, oh, cool, sweet, I can save these for later. We can keep going. So it's all around kind of like, actually, it's not sugar, this. There's so much more going on in our bodies.
So this is a loaded question.
Oh, gosh.
Therefore, if we were running really slowly, running a really easy run relative to ourselves and our respective pace, you're saying that we're not going to use as big a proportion of carbohydrates as we would fat. Would a better energy gel be to bring some butter with us? Or what do you mean by kind of using fat?
So it's looking at what our cells are choosing to fuel the kind of energy pathways and the chemical reactions that are happening to then give us this energy that then our muscles can use to propel us forward. So the digestion of fat is very different to the kind of cellular level energy, momentum, movement being driven by fat. So it's actually not kind of like a direct, I eat this and my body does this. Your body will do whatever it wants to do. So actually all you're doing by what you're eating is just actually potentially upsetting your stomach in that moment.
So you'd be using the fat that's stored within our cells, and that the carbohydrate is a faster digest fuel source. So that is driven by what we're consuming in the moment, and the fat one would be more driven by what's stored in our bodies.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also to do with kind of like blood glucose regulation in your brain. So your brain going, oh, what do I need to tell everything that's going on here? Like, what am I using? What am I driving?
And I guess just to add colour to the reason why you're saying then protein and fat are unhelpful to consume on a run is because they're more complex pieces to digest in the run. And given that they're not actually going to be valuable to provide you with energy in the moment, they're therefore worth worrying about later and then digesting later when you can sit down and you don't need to be jumbling your stomach around and maximising for energy to absorb the sugar from the carbohydrate.
Yeah, exactly. So protein and fat are not giving us energy in the moment. So protein is our kind of recovery fuel. That's what our muscles need to rebuild after a session. And fat is a really good source for like helping with your hormones. It is energy, but it's kind of in a different way to carbohydrates. Like me eating fat, like a form of fat now isn't going to react in the same way as carbohydrates. It's not going to affect my blood glucose level. So the fat and the protein take a lot more work for our stomach to digest. And when we're running, our blood gets kind of shunted away from our stomach. So if you then put in something that's really hard work for your stomach whilst you're running, it's going to be like, oh, great. I really didn't want to deal with this. And that's when you really, really increase your chances of GI issues. So kind of upset stomach, urgency, vomiting, all those kind of things on a run can be driven by eating the wrong thing because your stomach's going, I don't want to deal with this right now, so let's get rid and carry on.
There's still so much I can talk to you about carbs, and I will. But just so we don't forget, the final part of the sandwich, what is after? You just mentioned some protein.
Yeah, so we're saving protein for after runs because having it before, it's just not useful and it's just going to take longer to digest and it's not what your body needs right then. So it's that after your run window. You kind of have two windows really. So that right instant, that first like 20 minutes, which we know from kind of experiments, it's very useful to get in a source of carbohydrate and protein. So not just protein, you need the carbohydrate as well to fill back up those energy tanks and actually to fuel that recovery because your body can't do anything with the protein unless it's got enough energy from the carbohydrate to do something. So then you also want to follow that up with kind of a balanced meal. So if I had been to the track, done my session, and I wasn't going to get home and showered and have dinner in front of me for a good like 2 hours, that post 20-minute window is really important for me to get something in. So be that chocolate milk or banana and a protein shake. I'm a big fan of chocolate milk because it's easy and it's tasty. But actually going, that's going to help kickstart my recovery, keep me going until I then have my meal later.
And so just to clarify, is that within the 20 minutes or at 20 minutes? Just in terms of like practical advice?
Honestly, whatever you find easier as a runner. So some people can literally walk off a track, drink it straight down. I personally would struggle with that a little bit. I might want to, take 10, 15 minutes to cool down, stretch off, calm my heart rate a bit, and then have it. It's 20 to 30 minutes, fine.
I think it's funny that, I guess this comes from gym culture and growing muscles, that there is such a focus on protein. But I've read that protein is like one essential mineral, vitamin that no one is really low on. But carbohydrates you mention in pre, during and post. But that seems to be the thing that some people are really scared of still. Is that true about protein?
Yeah.
And why do you think people are so scared of carbs?
Yeah, absolutely. If you are eating a balanced Western diet, there is basically no chance that you are deficient in protein. Whereas carbohydrate, because of a lot of the historic messaging around it, all kind of driven by diet culture and things like that, actually a lot of people have preconceptions around carbohydrate and the intake and the amount and whether it's good or bad that really, really does influence their body's performance in a hormonal and biological day-to-day amount, as well as then when you translate that into running. So if you're not eating enough carbohydrate anyway, and then you start running more, your body's going to be in a bit of a stress state because actually it's not getting the energy it needs. And if you're over-consuming protein, you're sacrificing the carbohydrate. So your body's having to work a lot harder to get energy. Because if your body doesn't have enough energy and you're overeating protein, it will just break that protein right down and turn it into carbohydrate. So actually, just because you're eating loads of protein doesn't mean it sticks to your muscles or it's going to make your recovery better if you don't have enough carbohydrate, because protein works when it's burning in the face of carbohydrate.
So therefore, to think about it being kind of optimal, it's not necessarily that we want to eat just an abundance of protein, the more the better. It's protein is valuable to a point, but then making sure that we're coupling that with the right ratio of complementary carbohydrate with a view that just more protein in isolation isn't necessarily productive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask a maybe taboo or difficult question? A lot of people get into running to lose weight. And I've had questions all the time being like, I want to be in a calorie deficit, or I'm having a keto diet, which is no carbs, but I want to train for a marathon. And I'm always like, if you want to train for a marathon, you're really unlikely to lose weight because you need to be fueled. Is that the case? Yeah.
I get this question a lot as well. I'm training for a marathon and I want to fuel myself sufficiently, but I want to lose weight. And training for a marathon and losing weight cannot coexist in the same place if you want to fuel well and do well in that marathon. So a performance goal and a fat loss goal are mutually exclusive, in my opinion, because actually the concept of fueling well means you are giving your body everything it needs to match and meet the demands you're putting on it. And the definition of losing weight is you are not doing that. You are not meeting the energy need of your body, so therefore you're losing weight. And we have to be really careful, especially when we're new to marathon training, we're building up mileage, we're building up endurance. That takes a huge toll on your bones and your tendons and everything else. And that needs a lot of energy for recovery. And even sat here now, our bones are doing things because we've been training and we can't see that our bones are doing things, our tendons are doing things. You won't be able to feel them. Yeah. But that takes so much energy. And if you are in a calorie deficit and an energy deficit, whilst your body's trying to do that, it'll go, I don't have enough energy for this, I'll deal with this later. And then over time, you're building up that damage kind of in your legs, and you get to a point where either you get injured or you're not doing either thing well. So you're not losing weight well and you're also not training well.
When I first started running, I was very conscious of the performance. So I definitely would carb load or eat well before a training session. But probably the rest of the week, I wasn't having enough carbs. And eventually that did catch up to me. And I think that's something that is quite common.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's also looking at our diet and our training with a helicopter view. So it's not focusing on this one meal, this one snack, this one day, this one training session. That doesn't make your race. That doesn't make your marathon. So you've got to zoom out and go, actually, over the week, am I doing enough? Over the week, am I having enough? Am I sleeping enough? Am I doing everything I can to give myself the best chance to get the most out of my training, to have the most fun time running? And also, if you're having more fun, you're going to do better.
Yeah.
I guess then taking that helicopter approach and very much see the point around the kind of mutual exclusivity there. as you typically build up and train for a marathon, you would increase your mileage. Over the course, your long runs get longer, etc., which therefore, assuming that that's in isolation, which is not, but likelihood is your calorific expenditure over your marathon block will increase. I assume that means your advice is that you should eat more over the course of your training block as your mileage increases.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we often see is that runners don't do that. So if people have a preconceived idea around this is what I should eat, and they keep that the same, but they increase their mileage,
their weight goes down.
Their weight will either go down or their weight will plateau because their body will start turning down the metabolism and turning down other things. So that's when you then get the injuries, the niggles, the kind of hormonal changes, because actually your body's going, okay, I've only got X amount in the bank and I need to spend this as wisely as I can. So I'm going to turn the temperature down. You're going to be a bit cold. I'm going to make your brain a bit foggy. I'm going to do all these things to manage your metabolism. So weight is not actually necessarily a sign that you are eating enough. Mm-hmm. So just because you're not losing weight, you still might not be fueling well. And it's actually learning that our bodies are really smart and they will do things to protect us that might not necessarily make total sense of we've always been taught in, out, right, with calories and exercise, but those two don't match. So it's remembering as your training and your mileage goes up, you have to increase your food as well because you can't ask your body to do more on the same.
So therefore, we could assume that if our weight was to go down over a training block, we may well be underfueling.
Yeah.
Does that mean that if we're gaining weight over a marathon block, we're overfueling?
Again, not necessarily. Because again, it's one of those things where your body's managing your metabolism. And especially in female runners, it's really important for us to look after our hormonal health. So it's one of those things of going, actually, just because you've gained weight, if you then start playing around with kind of your intake, but your mileage is still going up and you start changing your food and decreasing food, that's probably one of the worst things you could do to your body because your body's got to trust you. And especially with kind of endurance running, if your body doesn't trust you, it's going to start doing all sorts of things that are not optimal for health. And all around all of this kind of sports nutrition, performance nutrition, it's all aimed at making you the healthiest runner possible. So if your body has turned down all your metabolism and then goes, you've given it, say, you've gone, okay, I've got a long run tomorrow, so I will eat some more. I will have the extra carbohydrate. Your body's going, oh my goodness, thank goodness. I'm gonna hold on to absolutely every part of this I possibly can because I don't trust that I'm safe. I don't know what you're going to ask me to do tomorrow. I'm stressed. And it's then going, actually, we don't want to be in this hyper stressed state. So it's actually why there's so much more to it than just kind of in and out. There is a lot more of actually us listening to our bodies and going, what is my body asking me for? Like, am I hungry? Yes. Okay. Therefore I should eat because my body's giving me a sign. It's like we say when you're injured, it whispers before it screams. Your body will do the same thing with food. And it's actually just learning to listen to these things and ignore what you think you should do with food. And actually lean into no, we want to fuel, we want to be feeling good and energized.
So what are some signs that your body's whispering to you that you're not fueling correctly?
So definitely if you don't feel like you're recovering. So if you're getting to your next session, legs are feeling like lead and you still feel the last run you've done in your legs, that's a big sign that you're not eating enough. Another one is kind of that flagging when you hit kind of 30% into your run when everything feels awful. Again, kind of hitting a wall later in sessions. Not being able to sleep is actually one. So if you are waking up in the night or you can't fall asleep is a sign you're underfueling. Feeling really cold all the time, changes to your hormones, lots of brain fog. Socially withdrawing is another one. Because if your body's going, actually, my friends feel like way too much effort because I've barely got enough energy to do anything. All these kind of signs that actually you need to kind of address what's going on in your body.
And one I have also heard about and definitely suffered myself is if I haven't fueled well enough on the run, I can't get my heart rate up and I can't run as fast. And I can see if I look at my data from marathons where my heart rate starts to drop and my pace starts to drop, and that will be because I haven't fueled well enough in that race, right?
So your body being super smart. It's something we see in heat as well, that it's kind of like a heart rate cap. So your body will literally not let you work any harder because it's going, I'm in danger. I'm not doing this. All the physiological switches have gone on. So again, it's our body's being super smart and actually just trying to keep us safe.
On rest days, should I eat less? I know the answer, but should I eat less on a rest day?
No, absolutely not. It's that helicopter view, right? Like, are you eating enough over the week? And a lot of runners actually find on long run day, it is really, really difficult to eat as much as you need. Like, it's very, very unlikely a runner will actually be able to match their energy expenditure on that day. And if you feel hungrier on rest days, that is absolutely fine, and it's very normal, because actually your body's in that rest and digest mode. It's calmer. It's not kind of got that adrenaline from your session. So it's going, oh yeah, eating would be a good idea. I've got chance for that. So it's actually going, yes, listening to your body and eating enough on your rest day to actually fuel your recovery. Because just because you're sat, it doesn't mean your body's not busy.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Runna Podcast. Quick one from me. Please can you rate, preferably 5-star, and follow us on your chosen podcast listening platform. This allows us to keep creating the best episodes and bringing you the most inspiring guests to help you along your running journey. Thank you.
There are a lot of high performance fuels or foods where, when we speak of gels as like the most kind of common one of these, to what extent are they actually like good for us? As in, like, do you imagine that we're doing everything that we've described, which is making sure we're getting doing really easy to digest carbs, and before our run, we're maximizing the fuel on the run, and obviously doing all the right things afterwards. It does feel like we're having a lot of these things that you would conventionally assume are not healthy. Are there any like drawbacks to this approach of fueling optimally for the sessions?
I think it's one of those things of actually, what is your goal? And there's no scientific literature or research that would say it's unhealthy. But again, it's kind of, what is your definition of health? And if part of your definition of health is being well fueled and being able to recover well, that's actually the perfect thing to support your health. And so it's actually giving your body what it needs to be the healthiest version.
It's slightly different to gels, but like supplements and all the things that people take around their runs, can you biohack your way out of a suboptimal diet for running?
Absolutely not. You can rattle like a pill bottle and it won't beat the fact that you're underfueled if you've not had enough carbohydrate. Because it's going, actually, in an ideal world, food first is the approach we would take to performance nutrition and sports nutrition. So it's going, actually, can you get as much as you need and everything you want from your diet? That is 100% the best way to do it. And there's kind of only two caveats to that, being creatine and vitamin D, that are things that are better to be supplemented with than kind of eating from food. Because we know creatine is something that's actually very beneficial for performance, but you can't get the amount of creatine you need from eating food. It needs to be in supplement form. Okay. But yeah, in terms of kind of all of the extra 1%, if you're not doing the base, the 1% are kind of negligible. I
think that's the way I think about my own nutrition personally, which is that I eat relatively well. I'm not a vegan. I'm not excluding any certain food groups. So I find it quite easy to get all of the certain minerals that I need, and I'm holding a healthy weight. So I assume that I'm probably doing fine. I have no health concerns that point me in an alternative direction. Does that mean that I should then be taking vitamin D and creatine? At the moment, I'm not. How do I think through that? And if I was a listener at home who feels loosely healthy and eats a balanced diet, how should we know if we're doing it right? Yeah,
it's one of those things. I think, what's your goal? So is your goal, to do with your running times or your weightlifting?
So if I tell you my goal is to be healthy and to be faster and stronger.
Faster and stronger, creatine's going to help.
And is that true across all distances, or is that only true across the shorter distances?
So there's actually a lot of more studies coming out in creatine looking at endurance, but it's also with creatine that it'll help you in your sessions, so in those short, fast interval sessions, and it'll help you in the gym. So one of the big upsides of creatine is helping build muscular strength. So if you are stronger, which we all know, stronger runners, faster runners generally. So actually that's one way that you could enhance what you're already doing.
And are there any drawbacks? Because this again might be my preconceptions of creatine as someone who used to be a big gym goer 10 years ago and did take creatine then, is that I'm under the assumption it increases your overall weight because you retain more water, which presumably is a performance disadvantage for someone running further or doing cycling a lot. And fundamentally, if I was to weigh more, I'll have more impact through each step and maybe increase my injury risk. Are those myths, or is that true?
That's where you're getting into the real kind of micro 0.01%. Okay. So generally, unless we're elite athletes, creatine is going to be of more benefit than otherwise. And actually, it's only kind of that top end of elite sport. But actually, we know that the power output gain from supplementing with creatine and the strength gains will actually outweigh any kind of weight to power. And there's also they've been looking at how the water actually then helps with kind of like hydration and metabolism. There's lots of kind of very scientific aspects to creatine supplementation. But yeah, overall, that's one of the ones kind of in sports nutrition, even with a food first approach, that's actually kind of has enough evidence that we would say yes.
Yep.
Whereas the other kind of supplements that, you know, are everywhere actually don't have enough evidence for us to be like, they're actually worth taking.
Okay, so that's the approach for creatine. I assume that approach is the same for all genders?
Yeah.
Okay. And what about for vitamin D? Should I go away from today and go and order some vitamin D?
Well, as we're coming into the summer, hopefully we won't need to take any more vitamin D supplements. So vitamin D, our skin can make from the sun. So depending on where you're living and how much sunshine you get on your skin, how much sun exposure you get, how much you're outside, can really affect whether you need to be supplementing with vitamin D. And actually in the UK, it's a government guideline that we supplement with vitamin D between kind of October and March-ish. And vitamin D is something that's really good friends with calcium in our bodies. So helps with bones, helps with bone strength.
And given that I haven't broken a bone or had a bone stress injury for years, it's still probably the right idea and I should go down that route for every winter for the rest of my life?
It's one of those things where it's actually, there's no evidence that there's a drawback.
Okay.
So we'll put you in a DEXA scanner and have a look.
Nice. Well, I got my shopping list sorted. Thank you.
One thing which I don't know whether we should add to the shopping list or not, and it's one of the things that, you know, is being served to us everywhere, is electrolytes.
I knew you were going to say that. I was like, oh gosh.
Do we need to be taking electrolytes?
No.
Or when is it beneficial?
Yeah. So generally, day to day, we do not need to be taking electrolytes. They are just really expensive packets of salt, basically. So there are times where, as a sports nutritionist, I would say that electrolytes are needed. And that is only when it is really hot and you're going to be exercising for a long time. So that's actually where the electrolytes need to be consumed. But it's actually not that we're replacing what we've kind of sweated out or lost. It's all to do with the way that our bodies absorb water and our water balance. So it's not the same as kind of with carbohydrate where we're going, I'm using this energy right now, so I need to replace it. Electrolytes don't work in the same way. So it's not like I'm using electrolytes right now, so I need to replace. They work differently. And actually, we get a lot of electrolytes in our food. So every time you put salt on your plate or in pretty much all food, there is some form of electrolytes because it's not just sodium, it's potassium and there's lots of others. And actually, as runners, you don't need that every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we were in the group where we're going out and doing a longer, hotter endurance exercise, and you're going out and doing a half marathon in a sunny place or a marathon in a sunny place, or on a sunny holiday, sounds fantastic to think about, and going and doing some long training exercise, should we be taking electrolytes before, during, after, all of the above? How do we think about electrolytes in the times when you recommend them?
Yeah, so it would be generally during long distance hot exercise. So anything over 90 minutes when it's really hot is where we would take electrolytes during. But actually, if you're doing exercise for that long, I'd hope you'd be taking some carbohydrate with you as well. So that's when we go, actually, are there some electrolytes in my gels maybe? Or is there a carbohydrate drink I could use that's got some electrolytes in it? And it's going, we don't need to really overdo this, but it's just having a little bit to actually help with the fluid intake and the fluid balance rather than, oh, okay, this is how much salt I've sweated off my face, so this is what I need to replace.
And so much of like the way that we think about setting ourselves up for a marathon or something that we've trained a lot about is sometimes just as much about tricking ourselves. We've done everything so that we have, during the placebo, that the legs are shaved and that there's no performance left behind. One of the things that I do, and would love you to tell me if it's right or wrong, is that I would typically have an electrolyte before bed on the day before a race with a view that, kind of like you said, I want to be topped up. Is that purely for my own placebo, or is there value in that? And does that change if it's a hot race ahead or not?
Depending, again, like you're saying, there's so many factors that affect our sweat rate. And actually it's going, okay, there are so many things that are going to be affecting your race. But what we do know is that there's actually a link between how much salt is in your diet and how much salt you sweat. So actually, when someone says, oh, I'm a salty sweater, I'm sweating out loads, is that because they had loads of salt the day before? So actually, it's just kind of the changes in your water balance. And we're at the kind of level of it's not going to make or break your race. But if you were telling me that you were having a tube of electrolytes every night before you went to bed, I'd say we really need to look at your salt intake. So it's actually going, okay, every once in a while, it's okay. But and that's okay if it's helping you, if it's going to help you, make you feel better on race day. But do you need to? No, because there will have been salt in your dinner and there'll be salt in your breakfast.
Well, I mean, the placebo will be broken now that you've kind of schooled me on it. So therefore I can completely throw that out the window. But that's very helpful. And I definitely think that the amount of salt that you see on people's clothing when they finish a race, it's very helpful to know that that's also driven by their diet more than anything, rather than who they are as a person.
It's not a moral compass of
I genuinely, my assumption was that it was just as who we are, and different people work in different ways. But it's really interesting that's so linked back to our diet as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. All bodies work in different ways. Like, your body will work differently on a different day. So actually it's going, what will make my body feel the best? Because that's all what this is all coming back to, is actually what's going to make you feel the best as a runner. What are you consuming that's good for you?
Selfishly tying this back to advice for myself, which hopefully is, June, there's something there that people can pull out of the same questions. We spoke so much about the lack of overlap between fueling optimally for your training block, whether that's a marathon or anything, and losing weight, and how those two things are mutually exclusive. What do you do if you like to train all year round? You know, I love running and I like cycling. I do a lot of endurance sport year round, years on end. Okay, so I'm 5 years deep, let's say. But I also know that I probably carry more weight than is optimal. How would I go about ever losing weight if I shouldn't underfuel?
It's one of those things where you go, okay, why? My questions would always be, why do you want to lose weight?
And to answer that, because there's some excess body fat, it would probably enhance my performance, make me feel better, reduce my injury risk so I carry less weight through the impact of my movement.
And then it's kind of seasonality. So it's going, actually, you need to pick a season of, is that season going to be driven by performance goals or body composition goals?
Okay.
And actually it's seasonality of which goal are you chasing at that time.
Okay, so at the moment I'm very excited about my London Marathon, and that's the primary goal. So therefore definitely a time to focus on fueling optimally.
Yeah.
But if there's a different period of time where I'm less excited or bothered by the performance gain, that would be a time to index more into the weight loss goal, achieve the healthier weight or the goal there, and then return to fueling optimally when training is again of high importance.
Yeah, if that's what you wanted to do with the way that your body and your performance are going, then yeah, you could do it like that.
It's really interesting to kind of think it through, because otherwise, if we follow the advice blindly, we can only ever maintain or gain weight. So it's helpful to challenge, because we will all probably go through ebbs and flows with these things, and therefore we need to be able to go through ebbs and flows of our training intentions as well.
Yeah, and I think it's important of also going, actually, what is driving that thought process as well? Like, that's something I'm always very conscious with, of actually, when there's so much kind of narrative around sizes of bodies and what they look like, it's always really, really important to kind of identify and ask yourself, actually, why do I think that? And actually, what is going to be the benefit of, like, are you going to become an Olympic athlete? Will it make you less fun? Will you still have your friends? What's actually going to be the healthiest thing for your body? Remembering all of those things are really important. And actually also, does that mean that when you then go back to the performance goals, is your body going to work in the same way? And will you get as good of an outcome? Or is your body going to go, oh, I really, really don't love this? And actually then it kind of be detrimental. So it's kind of going, okay, what is actually the healthiest thing for me and my body? Is it that whatever size I am, how cool that I can do all of this stuff? So it's actually just weighing those things up. Because
unfortunately there still is that myth or the narrative that smaller equals faster, but the reality is it's like a power to weight ratio, right? And there's also a lot of talk about red S at the moment, and I'd love to dive into that. But ultimately, if you're not fueling your body, you can't perform.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are not giving your body what it needs to be able to get the most out of your sessions and recover from those sessions, because that's the really important thing. If you're not recovering, you might as well have not done the session. And actually it's going to do that, to be the best version of yourself, you have to be fueled properly. Because I mean, I definitely am the fastest and the strongest I've ever been. I eat the most I've ever eaten. And actually I'm a completely different runner to when I wasn't fueling properly. So it's actually that cycle of, for a lot of people, and also when we're not kind of that elite end, when we're just generally running and wanting to feel good and have fun, fueling ourselves the best as possible can help us be the best version of ourselves in all areas of our life. So like being able to train really hard is great, but not if you then don't have enough energy to see your friends or do your job. So it's actually, do I have enough energy for all three buckets?
Yeah. You do specialise in RED-S. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so REDS or RED-S, REDS is a multifaceted syndrome. So it's relative energy deficiency in sport. And it's basically where, you know, I was saying earlier about your body kind of dialing down metabolism and dialing down other things. It's basically where your body's doing that to protect you because your energy intake is not meeting the demands you're putting on your body. And it's kind of a chronic, long-term thing where your body is really not functioning optimally.
Because I wonder if I ever had RED-S a little bit. Well, I mean, I did. I don't know why I'm saying I wonder. Because I lost my menstrual cycle. And the annoying thing is that my running was really good up to a point. And then suddenly my body went into like panic and and like I think that was like my body shutting down a bit. And then I wish I'd never got that like short term like achievement, because it's like I could suffer for a really long time off the back of it.
Yeah, and actually if you had forcibly kept your body in that place, you'd have ended up with stress fractures and all sorts of kind of long-term health issues. And it's actually there is a difference between kind of short-term energy issues and long-term chronic, where you end up losing menstrual cycles, we have hormonal issues. That is where it's actually been going on for so long that your body's really, really unhappy with you. And this is where the whole lighter is faster thing came from, because people have success with that to a point and then they break. And it's a very, very repeated cycle in athletes. So in some of my research, I've looked at endurance runners with bone stress injuries who've all have had REDS. And actually there's key core themes there where all of them kind of have these recurring beliefs and systems around food and body weight that are all been driven by the desire to perform, that ultimately mean that you burn out and your body ends up functioning against you, because at the end of the day, your body is just trying to make you survive, and it doesn't know the difference between if you're being chased by a lion or you're forcibly doing marathon sessions or there's a famine or you're just not eating. So it's all those things that can feed into this and put your body in a super stressed state where it's just not happy. And it might work for a little bit but then actually you'll just break.
And yeah, we spoke about menstrual cycles just then. I think a misconception is that it only affects females.
Yeah, which is absolutely not true. So it totally affects men as well. It's just the signs are different. But it's still also, again, because for women, estrogen has a protective effect on your bones. That's why it's more obvious with stress fractures with women, because when you lose your menstrual cycle, you're losing the protective effect. So your bones are more at risk. So especially in kind of long-term marathon training, that's why we see the kind of increased risk of stress fractures. And men still get stress fractures. And again, that's another sign that you're not recovering properly from your sessions, because your body's not got enough energy. But it's not just from the food intake. It could be under recovery, overtraining, but all together they become a real melting pot of things that are driving your body to be in a place that it really doesn't want to be in.
What are some signs that men can look out for?
So it's all those signs of underfueling, plus then changes in kind of morning functions. Again, also things kind of related to the way that they're progressing in the gym is a really good sign. Ways that they're feeling around their friends, around partners, all this stuff of actually, am I feeling like the healthiest, happiest version of myself? Also mental health. So our mental health will dip when we've not got enough energy, because our body's like, I've not got room for exciting things. I've not got room for fun, not got the energy. So again, that's another real one of actually mood changes being a big sign of energy availability issues.
What are some foods and snacks that you love to make that we could take away to feel well?
I'm a big fan of crumpets with peanut butter and jam. It's a really easy afternoon snack. I'm a really big fan of kind of little picky plates to have on my desk in the afternoon, but then also making these kind of balanced picky plates. So I would have some form of carbohydrates, so like crackers or like fruit loaf is really good. And then maybe like some cheese and an apple. That's a nice balanced plate where I've got actually protein, fiber, fats and carbs. And it's building snacks in that kind of way. I also love chocolate milk after a session. That's a really good one. And it's easy, right? We want to make this as easy as we can. So it's just remembering that actually it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be like some big far-flung sparkly supplement. It can just be oh, a banana and a latte is a really good thing to have because I've got some protein in my milk, I've got some calcium, that's great, and I've got some carbohydrate. Lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've got 2 questions.
Yeah.
One of them you jumped into, caffeine.
Yeah.
Is caffeine good for us, bad for us, a combination of both, and when should we and shouldn't we use it?
So it's kind of like the good food, bad food of like, it's all about the timing with caffeine. So
right before bed, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
On an empty stomach.
If your goal is not to sleep. So caffeine isn't actually giving you energy, it's just a stimulant. So it's waking up those kind of fight or flight adrenaline pathways in our body. So if you're about to go and do a session that you need to be really pumped up and amped for and you want the energy, a coffee before or caffeine in whichever way you choose, fantastic, can be a really useful performance enhancer. And we know actually caffeine is a proven performance enhancer. Also helps in endurance running where we can use gels with caffeine in later on in the race to give us that kind of boost, and those really help. But again, it's really personal and you have to practice, because actually if you don't practice, caffeine can have all sorts of effects on people. We all have different tolerances, but yes, it is a really useful performance enhancer.
Okay, so therefore caffeine before important key workouts or during things we want to perform optimally within. You mentioned afterwards chocolate milk, but is a coffee, which is often a very social thing, people finish their run with a coffee or a workout and see that at the cafe as a destination. Is that productive?
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. If you've had a session with your friends and then you go into the coffee shop afterwards, having a milky coffee and a croissant, that's actually a great little post-run snack because you've got carbohydrate, you've got a bit of protein in the milk, but you're not having loads of protein, but actually in terms of ratios, it's not bad. You could be having far worse things.
And then we kind of talk about all of these like performance enhancers. To what extent do these performance enhancers wear away off experience? As in like, Jane, if you never had caffeine and then you went and had a caffeine and it didn't be too much for you, so you needed the toilet, it might give you a performance enhanced benefit. But if you had caffeine before every workout, every day, you'd probably see less benefit. Is that the same with carbs? And I say this because one of my very best friends, who is performing and improving his running very well, he intentionally doesn't want to take on gels mid-run in his training at the same rate he would in a race, so that when he races, he feels extra good. Is that silly and is that bad behavior?
It's one of those things of if they're an elite athlete and they are working at different heart rate zones, they will be monitoring that glucose intake and that gram of carbohydrate in relation to a heart rate to a very, very fine degree. And we're then entering a very different end of sports performance and nutrition where we're looking at modulating heart rate and matching it to carbohydrate intake, which is fascinating and I find really interesting, but is not something that day-to-day runners need to be worrying about. So actually that's a very different kind of use case of where we're looking at the effects of 90 versus 100 grams of carbs. Whereas we're talking about kind of more general, if we're looking at day-to-day runners, we are nowhere near that end of carbohydrate intake where 5 gram intake difference is going to make a difference to what we're doing. So it's actually going, what is going to be the best thing for us for race day? When also we don't have hours and hours and hours and hours a week to be training. When I'm doing my key long runs and my key sessions that are over an hour and I've got a marathon coming up.
You want to make those sessions optimal.
Exactly. You want to make them optimal. And the best thing I can be doing is training my stomach. I need to train my stomach to be able to take on that carbohydrate when I'm running because it doesn't do it that often. And I'm going to want it to do it perfectly on race day because I don't want anything to go wrong. So actually, I've only got a few opportunities to try it out. So you want to make the most of those and go, yeah, every time I'm doing a long run, I'm going to practice the fueling I'm going to use for race day because I don't want my stomach to get upset or annoyed or have a shock of its life on race day when I start trying to have like 3 gels an hour. So it's all about actually going, we need to train our stomachs for what we're doing. And actually at this kind of level of where we're kind of recreational runners, that's the best thing for us to be doing.
And it will also, as you said, mean that you can perform better, which is going to put more load through your muscles and ultimately allow them to get more productive training stimulus.
Exactly. And it's getting the most out of what we have. And for us, that's doing exactly that.
Yeah. I guess my other question, which was thinking about all of these things, gels and whether that's supplementing with vitamin D or creatine, etc., which I know are more affordable supplements. How do you think about fueling on the run if you want to save money and not go and buy expensive branded gels? What would you recommend?
Yeah, so what you can actually do is when we're looking at gels, we ideally want a ratio of kind of 2:1 or 1 to 0.8 of glucose to fructose. And glucose and fructose in gel format are maltodextrin powder, which is just a fancy powdered glucose, and fructose powder. And you can buy those in bulk online in really, really big bags. And you can actually mix your own. And I have done it and I have tried it. It just gets a bit sticky. But you can do it and you can put them in little like kind of reusable soft flasks or things like that. So that's actually a really good way of doing it. You can also, you don't have to use gels. You can use other things. But then it's kind of looking at, okay, like we were saying before, are they quick, easy carbohydrate sources that are going to digest really well? Is there a way for me to carry them? And what is going to work well with my stomach? And can I carry it all on race day? If you're going to use a mixture of kind of food and gels, carb drinks, you can also like put things in water, put sugar in water, things like that. So there actually are ways that we don't have to use kind of traditional sports nutrition to get what we want.
Wow. Well, I think that answers a lot of our questions. And it actually isn't that complicated. And I know we're talking about a lot of things like a glucose to fructose, you know, all of these different things that you can allow to get more complex than they are. But I think let's just bring it back to some like key takeaways for everyone. There's 3 kind of phases. There's the before run, which, to summarize, and I need you to keep me to account on this simplification, it's let's make sure we're going into our run with some simple carbs, avoiding complex, hard to digest foods before that run. Mm-hmm. Then on the run, simple carbs, and electrolytes only during the run if it's hot and particularly long.
Yep.
And then post-run, in that first 20 minutes, some carbs with some protein and hydrate, and then a nice balanced meal, which includes all the food groups. Mm-hmm. And if we're eating really good balanced meals, we probably don't need to worry about getting all those supplements. Mm-hmm. And in the UK or places without as much sunshine, vitamin D is great. And creatine's useful for most athletes.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of like 101 that most runners should be thinking about?
Yeah. Honestly nailed it.
There we are. Okay, well, I know my homework. For me, it's vitamin D and it's creatine, and it's to make sure that I think about my phased approach to the year with reference to performance intention and if ever I want to reduce my weight. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much. We're going to segue over to Steph for our coaching tip of the week.
Today, we have some mental strategies for racing. Your brain can either be your biggest limiter or your strongest ally. By using mantras, having a pace plan, and focusing on the process and not solely the time can really help you tame any negative thoughts. Mental training deserves just as much attention as the physical work.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by the Runna app, the #1 rated running coaching service worldwide. And if you want to try it with 2 weeks totally for free, then use code podcast26 for your 2-week free trial. And please remember to rate and follow us on your listening platforms to help us climb the rankings so that we can keep bringing you the very best episodes with the most inspiring guests to help support you with your running. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Steph. I'm going to bring us back with our this or that's. So, would you rather a perfectly fueled run, but it's terrible weather, or perfect weather, but you forgot your gels?
Oh, I'm going to have to go for the terrible weather. You can't pick the weather on race day.
That's very true. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think even if you don't need a gel on your run, it's probably worth taking it because you'll recover quicker.
Absolutely. And it's kind of future you is going to be really grateful if you have those gels.
What about you, Ben?
Depends on a lot of things. Depends on the intensity of our run. I do love, I'm very excited that we're coming into the spring. I do love running in nice weather, but I'm also just got quite a nice sweet tooth. I quite enjoy the idea that running means that you just get to kind of have nice sweet treats whenever you like it. So I'm annoying. Probably depends on how bad the weather is. But as a one-off run, I'll be a bad pupil and I'll say I prefer a sunny day. Forget my gels. Mm-hmm. But I could always pop in and buy them on the way.
Turns out he hasn't done his homework. Okay, pre-run. You forget your breakfast or you forget water?
Oh, I actually don't think I could ever on any planet forget my breakfast. Yeah, it's got to be forget water. and then I'll just hope I run past a fountain.
Yeah. I mean, I did a marathon. Well, Tokyo Marathon. I think I was really dehydrated, and it was really hard.
No.
Yeah. What about you?
I have the same routine every day, which I get up and make a coffee straight away.
Yeah.
And normally I exercise as like my kind of first thing in the day, and then I'll have typically having the chocolate rice bar basically as a way to quickly get some carbs in and then get out at the door, with a view that I don't want to be having breakfast for an hour before and getting up even earlier and being underslept. And so therefore I practically am having some hydration, not very much, and some food. Probably both are not optimal. You tell me if I'm doing it all wrong. But I think I'd find it hard to forget to do those two things. I would go with the dehydrated over under eaten.
I'm a big fan of that same approach, like kind of a double breakfast, like a smaller one before, and then you get your like nice big one after.
And if those are the rice bars, I think they are. They are.
The Sturka chocolate ones.
They are unbelievable.
I'm
obsessed. I've got them on subscription, and we're not even, neither of us work with Sturka or anything.
No, they're fantastic. And actually, you're getting a really, really good dose of carbohydrate.
50 grams is a lot.
They also do them in two different sizes. There's the 50 and the 30.
I don't want the 30.
Yeah, because actually, any run, having 30 grams of carbs at least before as a snack is going to make that run so much better. And that could literally be a glass of orange juice or, a mini Soreen bar. That doesn't have to be a whole big breakfast, but having something before your run will make the world of difference.
Okay, last question. You're only allowed one carb source for the rest of your life. Bread, pasta, rice, potatoes. What would you go for?
Oh, it's got to be bread, I think. I feel like I could do more with bread and turn it into more things.
Toast and bread.
In my head, I'm like, can I scrunch it up and make it into dumplings? Like, I can have it like eggy bread. I feel like I could quite easily. I will catch myself, and I've eaten 3 bagels in a day. Like, quite easily.
It's the easiest one, I think.
Yeah,
it'd be weird to have like so much pasta or so. Although,
Also, that's just following your old coach's advice, having your bagel before bed.
True. I did see someone have chocolate pasta the other day. They were carb loading, so they put Nutella in their pasta, and I really want to try it.
Because I've had Nutella pizzas as like a kind of a dessert at a pizza restaurant, but I'm not sure Nutella on pasta.
Well, people are making like rice sweet now with honey and banana and things.
It's actually a brilliant thing to use as rice as your base. If you don't like bagels or toast before your run, try rice.
God, I think it's a really hard question. I'm really torn because I'm leaning towards potatoes, because that also is then like chips. You can kind of like have lots of different types of potatoes. You've got the jacket potatoes, you've got the little potatoes.
It's a lot of manual labour though, like throughout the day. Imagine doing breakfast, lunch and dinner with potato.
But I do actually think that the bread is the right answer, with a view that there's the biggest variety. But the good thing is we don't have to choose.
No, there we go.
What are you, Anya? Because you're not.
I feel like it's an unfair question for you.
Oh, well, being celiac. Rice. But I love, like in Japan, they had like hot sweet potatoes like everywhere. And I was, there's an elite athlete called Izzy Bat-Doyle, and she just has like 3 potatoes before any like hard run out there.
Gosh, I didn't even think about that. Going potatoes, you get to have sweet potatoes.
Okay, our final closing question we like to ask everybody. And this might tie in. But to design your dream race. So where is it? What distance is it? What food and drink is at the finish line? And who would present you with your award?
I do love kind of like a 50, 60k, maybe coastal ultra type thing. Only because then I can have multiple aid stations, so then I get multiple picnic choices along the way. As long as I can guarantee it's sunny, it's going to be on the Gower in Wales.
Okay,
coastal
it's your dream
ultra.
race, so we can
organise that. It's sunny, stunning. Maybe 55, 60k. And then at the end, it's going to have to be pizza. I do really like pizza afterwards. If I can have chocolate milk and then a little pause and then a pizza, that's great. Who would I have present me? It's probably got to be Paula Radcliffe, really.
Yeah, cool.
Gosh, they should actually start doing this at the finish line, shouldn't they? Rather than giving us a bottle of water, chocolate milk.
Yeah, absolutely. Be a great idea.
Yeah, where it's like Valencia gives you like broccoli, like raw broccoli.
Yeah, Valencia Marathon, mental. I think it wasn't actually as strange. I've done it a few times now, but the first time I did Valencia Marathon was a can of chicken and a raw broccoli on the finish line. It's like, wasn't sure if I was at a grocery shop or actually like you meant to eat it there and then.
Okay, Okay, interesting.
But yeah, they weren't adhering to this advice, so I know I'll have to let them know. Chocolate milk next time.
Yeah, we'll let them know the raw broccoli.
Yeah.
Let them know that the raw broccoli is not the one.
Yeah, no. I do wonder, very bizarre.
It's like when we got an apple after Berlin.
Gosh, I don't remember. Did we get an apple?
Yeah, we got an apple which was like branded.
Oh, I saw those with like stamps on.
Yeah.
I guess it's also the brands trying to get their thing into the finish line package in the way they can.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Food is a marketer's dream. So
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think today could be the most informative episode for me personally. I've got lots of takeaways. I've got my shopping list. But for everyone listening, thank you so much, because I think there are so many valuable insights. And I think the key takeaway for me is that it doesn't need to be that complicated. If we can understand the basics, we can really set ourselves up in the right way to be healthy, happy, and high performance amateurs as well. So thank you so much, and very good luck with all of your running coming up as well.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Before you go, we've got something very exciting to share. We have launched our limited edition Lululemon Runner collection, Your Best Yet.
It's a 10-piece London capsule built for every runner, for every mile, from those training miles through to race day. Designed for both men and women, it performs both on the run and for long after you've finished.
It's available now in the Lululemon London Regent Street store or online in the US and UK.
It's a limited drop, so when it's gone, it's gone.